everyone, it's Miss Lee here. So what you're going to do is a double exposure piece on using RGB channels. So I'm going to show you how to do that on Snapseed. On Snapseed is a little bit long-winded in comparison to when using on Photoshop, but at least you get the experience on how to do that on a different kind of software. So open Snapseed, and the first thing you're going to do is open an image. So if you don't have that cross symbol in front, just open it from the top button there. So choose a central composition. So I'm going to choose a central composition that I can find. Okay, the next thing you're going to select is tools, and then you're going to select curves, which is on the top middle row. And on curves here, there's a selection of different kind of filters that you can add to your picture. For instance, if I select any of these, and with the eye symbol at the bottom, it can hide the overall curves. So when curves are like above the diagonal line, it tends to add more brighter tones or brings out more of the blue tones or the red tones. Because if you look at a photograph, when it's pixelated, you can see the red, green and blues, and this is the part where you edit in to create those filters. But today we're not doing that. I just want to quickly sort of introduce you to what curves might look like. So on the bottom row, you see a cross button and a circular symbol. I want you to click on that, and that's basically called channels. Now with channels, you got RGB, red, green, blue and luminance. Now today you're only going to use either red, green or blue, those three options, and then the last one you're going to choose is luminance. So let's start with red, for instance. Okay, now you got this curve tool in front of you, and what you essentially need to do is either push this up or down. Now, because I'm using the red tool, I kind of want to bring out the red tones more as my main focus. The higher I take it up, the brighter and more the red tones are going to come out from the photograph itself. You can add an extra dot by just tapping on the screen like that, and then you can actually move that dot around, and that creates a different level of tone as well. So you can add as many as you want, but just try to think about what kind of tone you're looking for. So the perfect tone variation is a curve line like this. Okay, right, so once you're happy with that, you click on the tick button like so. Right, the next bit is to click on tools, and you're going to refine your overall exposure. So click on tune image. Then you're going to adjust the overall contrast, brightness. Those are the two main ones. And the second one, which is shadows. And I want to bring as much shadow in as possible. Generally, I like photos to show lots of detail. At the same time, it has some kind of impact. So try to add some shadows. If it's too bright, then you might need to bring your highlights down, and that brings out all of the other details on his textures on his skin. If not, you can brighten it up like so. So that also gives a bit of a lighting pattern on his face. And once you're happy with all of that, you then basically click on tick. Next thing you're going to do is click on tools, scroll down, go to double exposure, and you're going to add an image. So on the bottom first, after the cross, the icon with a plus, click on that, and then you're going to select a second image to add on top. Okay, main thing is trying to show two different sides of the story or emotion in this type of double exposure look. You can even enlarge it, the picture, or make it small. So choose how you want to do this. If there's a line showing on the side like this, I'm going to show you in the next step how to kind of correct that. Okay, so here you got blending options. You got dark, default, lighten, darken, add, subtract, overlay. The main one you want to use is mainly darken, but do experiment to see what it looks like on the other double exposed kind of blending options. Okay, then you go to opacity, which is the symbol with the ink droplet, and you can even adjust the overall opacity of that layer, and I kind of pretty much like it with the way it was, so I'm just going to click on the tick button. The line at this side on the right side is quite distracting, Remember lesson I shown you how to use a layer mask. So go to view edits and go to the brush tool, and all you're doing is just brushing in the areas that you want to show in this picture. Now if you accidentally brush in this, for instance, just drag your brush to 0 and that will basically remove it. Okay, I'm just taking back to 100 just to make sure I've got all of his details in. If not, put the eye tool on so you know what you're painting in. And then take your eye tool off. If you can still see the edge of the line, just remove it, fix it if you like, go around the edges if you like. Once you're happy with that, you click on tick, okay, go back and then go back to tools, and you basically repeat those simple steps. So go back to curves, and this point you're going to choose a different color. So we started with red, so I want to start with blue now. Okay, and then you click on tick once you're happy with that. You can even remove the curves just to see your picture overall, and you can even do before or after by holding your screen down like this. Okay, and then next thing, which is like I said, repeating your steps, go to tune image and adjust the overall exposure. Now you can add another image to double expose on top. Remember how I said go to layer mask to remove that edge? So here I'm going to show you how to do that again. So view edits, brush tool. You can even press the invert button, which is next to the cross button, and basically it brings out that layer, and all you need to do is bring your brush to 0 and remove any areas that you don't want. And at the moment it looks a bit confusing because if you think about it, the blending options, the background was kind of white anyway. So you're just removing areas you don't want. You can even bring the eye icon on so you know what you're brushing in and out. And you might want to keep some of the details in, like how I'm doing here. Repeat that step again of the channels. Let's say I haven't touched green yet. You click on tick and you do the same thing, tune image. What you do next as a last thing, you go to channels and then luminance, and you can even brighten up the overall image. And if you just want to see a little bit clearly what that might look like, you can even bring it down, and that tends to make it look quite scary and distorted. So you can even play with the overall exposure like this. And you can even add another point if you feel like you just need to bring it down a bit more. Like this. And you can take the eye icon off just to see before and after. So that's one way of doing it. And then go to tools, and remember when I said whenever you're about to finish, you always click on details, and you want to adjust the overall structure of your picture by bringing out the detail and make it sharper, add some noise to it, and then click on tick. And then once you're happy with that, you click on export and save a copy. So just to go over one more time, you essentially just mainly need to use the curves tool and go into the channels button and experiment with the RGB channels, okay? And when you move the curves above the diagonal line, you're basically making it brighter, and that means that you're going to bring out more of that color tone that you're trying to use depending on which channel you're on, okay? If you go down below the diagonal line, you're making it darker, or if not, if you're on a color channel, that will tend to bring the opposite color in instead to the mixture. Every time you finish applying your curves, you go to tune image, and you want to adjust the shadows, highlights, contrast, and brightness, so the overall exposure, just to bring out more of the detail of your photograph, and it doesn't get lost on the way as you keep adding more and more photos in. And then the next bit, you go on to double exposure. So double exposure means that you're going to be overlaying a second image on top. And when you do that, make sure you choose a blending option, which is the tent icon, and it's the darkened one that you want to use. And then change the opacity level in terms of how much you want that image to show through. The other things to be aware of, like you should always go to view edits and look at your layers just to see where you can make more edits on that area. So let's say I want to show more of the subject's face. I might want to layer mask some of those areas out, okay? So to do that, like I said, just go to your brush tool and just click on the brush button, and you can even click on the invert button just to see what it is that you want to show or hide, okay? So and you can even just brush it in of the areas that you want to keep and don't want to keep, okay? And that will work for you. So those are the kind of things you could do, yeah? So do have a go to experiment with it. There's no right or wrong way of editing. It's all about just experimenting and see what you get. But do consider about your composition and your overall tonal variation with the 3 colors or 2. You can even keep adding more images in and layer mask as you go along.